within a shadowy cave. The sharp clang of a pickaxe striking stone echoes loudly. A young man with striking white hair pauses as he notices glowing, blue droplets seeping from a ceiling crack. His eyes widen with a jolt of excitement. He's finally found what he was searching for. He carefully positions a bottle to catch the precious, falling liquid, identifying the glowing substance as rare ink. The young man thanks the small, black cat perched on his shoulder, Nero, acknowledging the discovery was only possible thanks to his keen senses. He looks toward the light at the cave's exit, thinking that if he brings this ink back, the pioneering corps might finally accept him. Feeling relieved, he walks out of the cave onto a desolate gray wasteland, looking toward a massive, radiant metropolis gleaming in the distance. Inside that vibrant city, a crowd cheers wildly for the arrival of elite warriors, known as colorists. They walk proudly, their hair a spectrum of vibrant colors. Two citizens admire the warriors, discussing how the team successfully took down another massive creature. They know that as long as these heroes are around, their shining city will remain safe. However, the scene dramatically shifts to the darker, grimmer Shadow District. A long line of people waits outside a building, where a bulletin board announces the entrance exam for the C-rank Pioneering Corps, stating that anyone with color is welcome. Suddenly, the white-haired young man is violently thrown out, crashing onto the ground. Two examiners glare down at him. One yells that this place isn't for people like him. The young man stands up in frustration, holding out the bottle of shimmering blue ink. He demands to know what the problem is, insisting the ink proves his qualifications. The examiner points an accusing finger at the boy and spells out the harsh reality. He is rejected because he is colorless. He explains that in this world, roles are decided at birth, and mocks the boy for not knowing his place. The red-haired examiner unleashes a potent surge of crimson energy, viciously branding the young man a damn colorless. Our white-haired protagonist flinches, groaning in agony as the raw energy washes over him. Standing imperiously at the top of the stairs, the examiner lectures the kneeling boy about the nature of pioneers, his face twisted in an arrogant sneer. He pompously declares that only a select few, like himself, are truly capable of becoming one. The examiner explains that the foreboding Blacklands, lying just outside the city walls, are a treacherous place where the weak simply cannot survive. It's a terrifying landscape, swallowed by impenetrable darkness and overrun with dangerous beasts, known only as creatures. He then glorifies the pioneers, who bravely risk their lives to explore, gather vital resources, and fight these monsters for humanity, thus earning the revered title of heroes. Returning to the present moment, the examiner stares coldly at our protagonist, declaring that for a colorless person like him, achieving such greatness is utterly impossible. He brutally insults the boy, telling him to know his place and stick to menial work, issuing a chilling final threat. He warns the boy he will die if he ever returns, then slams the door shut, leaving him alone. Our protagonist looks downcast, as a soft purr emanates from his chest. Nero, the adorable black cat, pokes his head out of the boy's jacket. The protagonist gently pets the cat, saying they can just try somewhere else, because he's unfortunately used to this kind of rejection. Despite the stinging humiliation, he forces a determined smile, and promises Nero that he'll become the greatest colorist ever. He quickly tucks the cat back inside his clothes, worried someone might spot him. The protagonist walks through the bustling industrial streets, wondering where to go next. As he walks dejectedly, he desperately hopes to find a place that will finally accept them. Unaware, he's being watched from above by a mysterious man with green hair. Later, the protagonist stands in a busy plaza, checking his worn notebook. He violently crosses out another location in a book, already filled with countless crossed-out names. Realizing he has been rejected everywhere he's tried, he lets out an exhausted, defeated sigh. A deep resignation washes over him. He reluctantly approaches a building displaying a sign that reads, Mari Workshop, muttering to himself that it can't be helped. He pushes open the door, calling out to the owner within. A white-haired girl, wearing goggles, pushes up her glasses and welcomes him back with a cheerful, dazzling smile. Marie immediately notices his gloomy expression and correctly guesses he's failed yet another exam. As Nero, a fluffy cat, hops onto the table, she warmly greets the feline companion. She attempts to lift his spirits, insisting the examiners are completely blind to his true talent. However, he remains discouraged, questioning what good his strength truly is, if no one will accept a colorless person like him. Marie counters, arguing his skills are clearly proven by the fact that he consistently brings back crucial resources from the perilous, monster-infested Blacklands. The protagonist, however, stays humble, claiming earnestly that his survival is only possible because Nero constantly helps him. Quickly changing the subject, he places a bottle of vibrant blue ink onto the table and asks if she can purchase it from him. Mari is absolutely delighted and readily agrees to pay him handsomely. She carefully pours the luminous blue liquid into a complex pipe system, complaining that ink prices have utterly skyrocketed. Due to severe shortages, the protagonist notes. He points out that this extreme scarcity is precisely why people are desperately calling for more pioneers. A panoramic view of the intricate machinery shows that their entire livelihood hinges on these precious, colorful fluids. The protagonist sighs, utterly frustrated that no corps will hire him. Marie then asks if he's given any thought to her previous suggestion. When he hesitates, looking unsure, muttering that the place she mentioned seems a bit. Mari abruptly slams a piece of paper onto the table, shouting at him that he simply has to try everything. The flyer reveals a recruitment notice for the prestigious S rank. Down Punirinko. It boldly states the entrance test is open to everyone and is based strictly on pure skill alone. The protagonist stares wide-eyed at the paper, completely in shock. He reluctantly admits he'd always hesitated to apply to such a prestigious S-rank corps, assuming he would inevitably fail. He then wonders if a place like that would truly recognize his unique skills. Marie eggs him on to seize the opportunity, reiterating that if it's truly skill-based, he might finally earn the acknowledgement he deserves. She smiles, reminding him he's wanted to be a colorist for a very long time. A flashback reveals a young, lonely protagonist caught in the rain, clutching Nero close, revealing he's harbored this dream since childhood. Marie assures him she'll always be there to support him, bolstered by her unwavering confidence. The protagonist manages a smile and realizes he can't hesitate any longer. He firmly clutches the recruitment flyer, his determination renewed. He waves goodbye to Marie and heads out of the workshop. As he walks through the quiet alleys of the Shadow District, the protagonist clutches the flyer tight, thinking he needs to prepare thoroughly for the exam. Suddenly, he halts as Nero reacts to a hidden presence behind them. A voice casually asks what's wrong, and a hand, gripping a wooden wand, tipped with a glowing green orb, appears from the shadows. The green-haired man, who had been spying on him, aims his wand directly at the protagonist. A magical crosshair locks onto his back. Without hesitation, he fires a blade of green energy. The protagonist turns in shock, but he's far too slow. The energy blast strikes him violently, sending him screaming in agony. As he collapses, the green-haired man and his assistant stand over him. The attacker mocks him, noting that although he dodged a direct kill shot, he'll be dead soon anyway. Bleeding and unable to move, the protagonist lies helpless on the pavement, while the attacker coldly remarks that no one cares if a colorless person dies. The protagonist weakly calls out to his cat, seeing Nero's terrified face peeking out from his clothes. The boy uses his last ounce of strength to urge the cat to flee. The scene shifts to an industrial area, marked with a warning for an ink waste disposal site. The protagonist groans as he regains consciousness, only to see the green-haired man smiling down at him. The man grips him tightly by the collar, dangling him precariously over a massive vat of black sludge. He taunts our protagonist, declaring it'll be incredibly unlucky to be thrown in. While he's still alive, the attacker reveals the pit holds corrosive ink waste, a deadly mixture that dissolves anything it touches, ensuring no body will ever remain. Terrified, the protagonist struggles fiercely, demanding to know who this man is and why he's being attacked. The green-haired man reveals that he and his partner were shocked earlier while spying on him. A flashback shows that while watching, they hadn't been interested in the boy at all, but in the creature cunningly hiding in his jacket. The man explains that a creature intelligent enough to follow a human is an incredible, unheard-of discovery. He calls Nero a true rarity as he tightens his grip on the protagonist's throat. Behind him, his assistant holds up a small cage. Inside, Nero sits trapped and whimpering, while the protagonist looks on in absolute horror, realizing his precious companion has been captured. Desperate, the protagonist grabs the green-haired man's collar, screaming at him to let go of the cat. The attacker is completely unimpressed, mocking the boy's anger as pathetic. His eyes glow with raw greed as he explains, the creature is far too valuable for a colorless owner and will be sold for a huge sum on the black market. He easily overpowers the boy, choking him and lifting him into the air, sneering that the pet is simply too good for him. As he hangs helplessly, the protagonist scolds himself for being so careless. In the Shadow District, he reflects on his lonely past, thinking that, while he has always endured discrimination, he absolutely refuses to lose Nero, his only family, over something so trivial. With a sudden burst of fury, he warns the man not to mess with him, and tightens his grip on the attacker's arm. The green-haired man pauses, noticing something utterly strange. His expression shifts from arrogant confidence to pure shock, as raw energy crackles around his face. A potent, swirling green aura flows from the attacker, right into the protagonist's hands. The man lets out a panicked cry, feeling his very essence forcibly ripped away. Utterly terrified by this unknown sensation, the man violently flings the boy off, sending him hurtling into a vat of toxic ink. What a waste. The attacker dismisses the whole encounter as a waste of time. Meanwhile, Nero cries desperately from his cage. The villains triumphantly declare they are now rich and make for the black market, callously ignoring the cat's tears deep beneath the black liquid. The protagonist watches as the light around him fades, Nero's cries growing tragically distant. He struggles to swim, but his body is completely paralyzed as vivid memories flash before his eyes. He wonders if this dark pit is where his story truly ends. However, a vision of his younger self, clutching the cat, appears. He realizes he absolutely cannot give up yet, because he still has a sacred promise to keep. Deep within a boundless void, a mysterious voice challenges the unconscious protagonist, asking why he's doing nothing, leaving him confused. The protagonist demands the voice identify itself. Huge, glowing text flashes before him, forcefully commanding him to accept it. A deluge of thoughts rains down, compelling him to save Nero and accept his true color. Shadow engulfs the protagonist's face. As the voice fiercely demands he take back his power, a shadowy hand reaches out. From a swirling vortex of inky black liquid, the protagonist stands frozen and motionless as a dark tendril dissipates above him. He looks down at his hands, now writhing with dark energy, confused, realizing he was inside the ink. His memories feel shattered and fragmented, but he shoves those thoughts aside to focus on what truly matters now. A shadowy silhouette with piercing white eyes. He questions what terrifying thing he has become. Suddenly, a soft whimpering sound cuts through the silence, catching the entity's sharp attention. He looks up, spotting two blurry figures, standing high above, clutching a small cage inside. Nero screams, horrified by the sight of his companion. His cry snaps our protagonist back to reality. He resolves that he must save Nero. He extends a hand of pure darkness toward the man. Suddenly, a massive geyser of black energy erupts from the depths. The green-haired man and his assistant recoil in terror. Screaming, they look down into the disposal pit and are shocked to discover this. The deadly pool of ink has completely vanished. Only a lone, dark figure stands at the bottom. And this entity, emanating an ominous aura, begins to stalk toward them. The green-haired man trembles, paralyzed by fear, his eyes wide with utter disbelief, as a gigantic claw of shadow descends upon them. He stammers, wondering if this terrifying being is even a creature. The aftermath of the explosion leaves behind a scene of total devastation. Within the Shadow District, a frantic older man screams at a police officer, insisting he saw a small hand suddenly spring out from nowhere, causing a massive eruption of dark energy that completely wrecked the entire area. As the dust settles, medics carry away the unconscious bodies of the green-haired attacker and his assistant. A new group of arrivals observes the victims. A man with red hair and a woman with blue hair look down at the injured men, noting that these B-rank pioneers have completely lost their color. The blue-haired woman is baffled, unable to understand what could possibly drain a person's color. But her companion suggests they focus on their mission. The red-haired man states that they came due to reports of a large creature appearing within the city. The police officer on site is stunned to realize he is speaking to a high-ranking colorist. He nervously asks why such elite individuals are in the Shadow District, and the blue-haired woman politely explains they are there to investigate. The red-haired man asks to be shown the impact site, and the intimidated officer quickly leads the way. The two investigators stand before the massive crater. The red-haired man meticulously inspects the debris, and spots unsettling dark stains. Meanwhile, his partner confirms they've found traces of a creature. She points out that it's highly irregular for one to suddenly appear inside the city, especially in the outskirts. She explains that usually only small animals are ever found within the city walls. Gazing into the deep pit, the red-haired man wonders if they're now dealing with a new monster variant. He looks bored, yet deadly serious, realizing that tracking this unique entity will be incredibly troublesome, since it doesn't fit any of the usual patterns. The scene shifts to a desolate, rubble-strewn landscape, where debris is piled high. In the darkness, a cat cries out. Kay, lying in the shadows, groans in pain. He feels a rough tongue, and wakes up to find Nero licking his hair. Overcome with immense relief, Kay immediately pulls Nero into a tight hug, overjoyed that his beloved cat is safe. However, the physical pain hits him, and he winces. Kay sits up, utterly confused, trying to piece together what happened. He remembers the bastards who attacked him and threw him into the vat, recalling falling into the toxic black liquid and sinking down. His eyes widen in shock as he processes his survival. He holds up his hands in disbelief, wondering if the impossible has truly happened. He touches his head and feels something different. His hair, once white, is now jet black. Kay grips his new black hair, staring forward with utter confusion, unable to understand how he's still alive, or why his appearance has drastically changed. Standing in the pitch-black darkness, Kay looks around, wondering why he can't see anything. He calls out desperately to his companion, asking Nero to help. In response, the black cat leaps into the air and spins rapidly, emitting a blinding, white glow that illuminates the entire area. The sudden light reveals a terrifying scene. They are in a deep cavern, surrounded by swarms of dark, monstrous creatures. Kay stares in shock. He stammers, trying to process just where they've landed. With dawning horror, he realizes that they're in the terrifying Blacklands, a desolate wasteland far beyond the city walls. He recalls this area, the Black Forest, is notoriously deadly. Only B-rank pioneers are even permitted to enter. Realizing monsters are swarming towards them, Kay completely panics. He yells for Nero to follow and immediately flees for his life. A glowing cat flies alongside him, lighting the path as Kay sprints for survival. He barely dodges a massive, shadow-like serpent, exclaiming that the situation is incredibly dangerous. Despite the danger, Kay thanks Nero for the crucial light. As they race through the dark forest, they scramble up rocky cliffs to escape the chasing beasts. Kay follows Nero's light, leaping down a deep, vertical drop to put some distance between them and the horde. As he runs, Kay's expression shifts from fear to confusion when he notices something that's strange about his physical condition. He looks at his chest, where dark energy radiates, and realizes his body feels incredible. He notes with surprise that, even after running for so long, he's not tired at all. He leaps across a wide chasm with incredible ease, realizing he's moving faster, and with more agility than ever before. He lands firmly, completely stunned by the realization that his body is overflowing with a new, mysterious energy. Nero senses danger first, his ears perking up as he notices a threat approaching. A ferocious wolf-like shadow creature lunges at Kay, catching him completely off guard. Kay realizes too late that his defensive stance is weak, and he cannot block the attack. Certain he's about to die, He squeezes his eyes shut and braces for the bite. The monster's teeth clamp down hard on Kei's arm. But instead of tearing skin, a loud cracking sound echoes. The beast's teeth shatter completely upon impact, leaving the creature utterly confused. Kei opens his eyes, stunned to find himself alive. The shadow wolf is now toothless and terrified. He whimpers, scurrying back into the bushes. Kei inspects his arm, realizing he's completely unharmed. Not a scratch. He stares at his hands in utter disbelief. A hit like that should have been fatal, he thinks. His eyes widen instantly. He finally understands this incredible durability. That is the power of color he's been searching for. Suddenly, heavy tremors shake the very ground beneath them, drawing both Kei's and Nero's attention. A massive silhouette begins to rise from the encroaching darkness. Towering over them, a monstrous giant. That one-eyed monster climbs right over the ridge. It glows with a menacing, dark energy. Kei stares up in utter horror, instantly identifying the beast as a cyclops. As the monster raises its massive arm to crush him, Kei wonders why a predator, that usually lives deep within the Black Forest, that is this far out here. The cyclops slams its massive fist into the ground, that with incredible, explosive force, causing Nero to yelp as debris flies everywhere. Kei survives the impact, sitting amidst the smoking rubble. He admits the blow was heavy, indeed, but a confident grin slowly spreads across his face, as he realizes he actually has a real chance to win. Memories of his past, being a lonely child, facing rejection and constantly being beaten down, flash through his mind. He acknowledges that he's finally obtained the power that he always longed for, and he decides things will be different now. Energy crackles around his arm as he clenches his fist tightly, resolving that he doesn't need to run away anymore. Kei stands his ground, firm and resolute. Clenching his fist, he resolves he is done running. Memories of his past struggles surge through his mind. He focuses on that strange, powerful sensation rising from deep within him, and suddenly his body is engulfed in swirling shadow. He transforms into a being of pure, unadulterated. That dark energy with piercing, glowing white eyes. The Cyclops roars furiously, enraged, and reaches out with its monstrous giant hand, that to crush the seemingly small figure. However, Kei launches himself off the ground, that with explosive force, soaring through the air, he prepares to strike, then delivers a devastating punch that completely shatters the giant monster into countless pieces. The sheer force of the blow creates a massive shockwave that's tearing through the landscape, carving a destructive path through the trees. Kei absolutely rockets through the air, surrounded by the shattered remains of his foe. He holds his transformed state just for a moment, but then his eyes widen, noticing a sudden change. The dark energy suddenly melts away, and he finds himself just floating high above a lush, vibrant landscape. Under a bright sun, he gazes down, in awe of the vibrant forest and the powerful waterfall below, stunned by the vivid, breathtaking colors all around him. But just as quickly as it came, the power vanishes, and his hair snaps back to white. He looks down in utter confusion. Panic sets in as he realizes gravity is taking over, and he's utterly helpless in the air. Screaming in terror, he plummets rapidly toward the trees and crashes hard into the forest below. Kei drags himself from the debris of his fall, while Nero hovers above, looking deeply concerned. Kei collapses to his knees, gasping for air, as the dark energy that enveloped him begins to evaporate like smoke. He realizes, with horror, that his color is rapidly fading away. Panic sets in as Kay understands the harsh drawback of his new ability. He realizes that the more he uses this intense power, the faster it drains from his body, and at this rate, he'll be left utterly defenseless. Suddenly, the world around him goes pitch black, and a mysterious voice echoes in his mind, asking him, "What are you waiting for?" The voice commands him to act, pointing out that his prey is lying right in front of him and urging him to eat it quickly. Kay looks down at the scattered remains of the Cyclops. He just defeated. The voice manipulates him, asking, "Do you want to live?" and instructing him to simply reach out his hand. Exhausted and sweating, Kay struggles to stay conscious. He looks desperate. As the voice continues to demand he use his hand, his eyes glow faintly as he fights for survival. Trembling, he obeys the instinctual command and reaches his hand toward the monster's remains. Kay places his hand firmly on the carcass of the Cyclops. Astoni, Ashadoi technique activat, and he starts absorbing the dark energy. It was lingering within the monster's body. Nero watches with wide, shocked eyes as his owner performs this terrifying feat. A massive pillar of black light erupts from the forest, piercing the sky as Kay fully consumes the energy. As the light fades, Kay is left panting heavily, the exhaustion slowly draining from his body. He leans back against a rock, his hair black once again and his energy fully restored. He looks up at the sky, letting out a sigh of immense relief, realizing he's going to survive. Back at Mari's workshop, the day seems peaceful inside. Mari is working on a blueprint when the door chime catches her attention. She looks up to see a mysterious, silhouetted figure in a ragged cloak, standing in the doorway. Trying to be polite, Mari welcomes the stranger with a smile, though she's already trembling with nervousness. She asks if they have a special request, but the hooded figure simply stands there, emanating a dark aura. The stranger takes a heavy step forward. Mari, now visibly nervous, calls out to him, pointing out he looks suspicious. When he continues to approach, she panics and grabs a large wrench, warning him she'll attack if he comes any closer. The figure suddenly rushes toward her, causing Mari to scream in terror and squeeze her eyes shut. However, the intruder stops and pulls back his hood, revealing a familiar smile. He tells her to calm down. Kay reveals his face, scratching his head sheepishly. He tells her it's just him, though he admits he barely recognizes himself now. Mari drops her defensive stance, her eyes wide with shock. She stammers, unable to process the drastic change in his features. Her voice echoes outside as she screams in disbelief, demanding to know what happened to his appearance. Mari is shaking, clutching a metal pipe in fear, as she faces the hooded figure. Suddenly, her fear turns into explosive rage. She pulls out a hammer and a wrench, screaming that she'll never forgive those bastards, the ones who dare to hurt him. She swings her tools wildly, yelling that they deserve to have their heads smashed in. Meanwhile, Kai frantically tries to calm her, assuring her he's perfectly fine. Realizing it's truly him, Marie slowly sets down the wrench. She admits she got a little carried away, but only because she was absolutely terrified. After losing all contact with him, her expression softens into a relieved smile, and she tells Kai how happy she is that he's safe. Kai apologizes for making her worry so much. Internally, Kai reflects on the sheer absurdity of his situation, thinking that surviving a fall into toxic ink and gaining a color is just unbelievable. He then voices a concern to Marie, noting that his new color is black, which is often associated with monsters. He wonders if people will now look at him in a bad light. However, he quickly brushes that worry aside, deciding that what truly matters is that he finally has the chance to become a colorist. He declares he'll go straight to the Pioneering Corps' entrance exam and thanks Marie for all her help. Then sheepishly asks if he can borrow some clothes, promising to return them. Marie looks exasperated, sighing and asking how many times he's going to beg. However, she then smiles warmly, telling him to consider it an investment in a future colorist. She suddenly grabs Kai's hand and pulls him along, telling him to follow her. Kai looks surprised, as she cheerfully announces she has the perfect items for him. The scene shifts to a massive crowd of aspiring pioneers, marching up the stairs of a massive, Colosseum-like building. Inside, hundreds of participants gather on the floor, which is marked with large white square platforms, preparing for the exam. Among the crowd, a group of 3 men chat nervously. A man with blue hair and number 183 on his chest tries to calm his anxious friend. The friend with pinkish hair expresses disbelief that they've made it this far, preparing to take the test for the prestigious Pioneering. This S-rank group is known for its incredible achievements. Their mission: explore the dangerous Black Lands, a realm that demands skilled colorists. These colorists are the shining city's last hope. But the candidates can't help but worry. With so many strong rivals gathered, they spot a woman with long, turquoise hair, said to be the heir of a renowned colorist family, next to a man rocking a beanie. They also notice other rising stars, like a boy with striking pink hair and goggles, and a man in a gas mask. Despite all these rivals, the group agrees on one thing. One person commands all the attention. They look to a young man with wild, green hair and piercing eyes. This is Gale the Gale Sword, and everyone believes he's guaranteed to pass. Whispers say he's powerful enough to handle even the most dangerous creatures, all on his own. However, he's also infamous for his cruel, violent nature, a nature that reportedly got him expelled from his previous corps. The blue-haired man, no, 183, laughs arrogantly, boasting he's not scared of guys like Gale. Suddenly, a dark shadow looms over him. Gale appears directly behind the boasting man, daring him to say that again. The blue-haired man freezes in terror, as Gale looks down on them with utter contempt, calling them ridiculous brats. Gale walks away, sighing in disappointment. He complains that despite this being an S-rank exam, the competition is shockingly low. As he surveys the participants, he mentally crosses them all out, thinking there isn't a single standout among them. However, his eyes narrow as he spots one exception, the turquoise-haired girl. He identifies her as Ellie Kyan, the second daughter of the Cyan family. Gale smirks, admitting she's at least decent enough to catch his eye. As he reaches a hand out toward the crowd, in his imagination, he wonders with anticipation how they'll all react to the upcoming test. A mechanical speaker crackles to life, calling for the candidate's attention. Gale and Ellie turn their heads toward the stage. A voice booms out declaring that the entrance exam for the Dawn Pioneering Corps is officially beginning. A man with bright, blonde hair and piercing yellow eyes stands on the podium, announcing the test starts now. The crowd gasps, stunned, realizing the examiner is a famous colorist from the renowned Dawn Pioneering Corps. The candidates whisper excitedly, recognizing him as a true hero. who made huge contributions to a recent creature hunt. They realized that if an elite colorist like him has shown up, the Corps must be serious about this recruitment. Candidates feel an overwhelming presence radiating from him, noting that S rank. Corps members are truly on a different level. The examiner looks down at the crowd and welcomes them. He thanks everyone for applying, acknowledging they all have their own goals, whether for money, power, honor, or duty. However, he states, coldly, that none of those reasons actually matter. His eyes glowing, the examiner explains that in the end, only skill allows a person to achieve anything. He declares, they are looking for overwhelmingly strong candidates, capable of venturing into the perilous Black Lands to reclaim human territory. He tells them to look around, stating that mediocre people are not needed here, and they will start immediately. He gestures to the square platforms on the ground, announcing the first test will be a tournament. He explains that combat ability is the most crucial skill for a pioneer, because the world outside the city is a brutal place, where only the fittest survive. He clenches his fist and commands the candidates to prove their abilities. He explains that those who pass the first round will be decided by the tournament results, and instructs them to step onto the stage when their number is called. The examiner calls out, no, 126 and number 286. Gale, number 126, steps forward with a serious expression. The crowd murmurs, calling Gale a heavyweight, and expressing pity for whoever has to fight him. So early into the match, Gale, however, lets out a wicked smile, thinking he's lucky to have some fun. Right from the start, as he was dying of boredom, his eyes narrow with predatory excitement, as he wonders how to toy with his opponent. Suddenly, Gale notices someone approaching the stage, wondering what's up with this creepy guy. Walking toward him, standing opposite Gale, is a figure, completely hidden in a ragged cloak, wearing the number tag 286. Gale analyzes him, thinking the hooded figure's stance looks awkward and weak. Gale grips the hilt of his weapon, deciding talking doesn't matter anymore. He draws his sword with a sharp shing, declaring he's tired of being quiet. Unleashing his power, he swings his blade, creating massive streaks of green wind energy. Deciding not to hold back, the spectators watch in awe, recognizing the signature technique as the Gale sword. As glowing, green swords materialize in the air around him, the crowd praises him as a genius for handling such advanced swordsmanship at his age. Gale stares intensely at his opponent, challenging the hooded figure to try and block his attack. With a burst of speed, Gale stomps the ground to gather momentum, threatening to shred his opponent. If he fails to defend himself, he charges forward with incredible force, surrounding himself in a whirlwind of energy. The hooded figure stands completely still and silent, unmoving in the face of the approaching attack. As Gale descends from the air, swinging his blade down with a shout, the hooded figure simply steps in and delivers a devastating left hook to Gale's face. The impact is so powerful that Gale is sent flying backward across the arena. The arrogant candidates from earlier scream in terror at the unbelievable sight. Gale crashes violently into the arena wall, creating a massive spider web of cracks. He slumps forward, unconscious and defeated in a single hit, leaving the crowd utterly stunned. How is such a thing even possible? The hooded figure, now revealed as K, rubs his wrist, looking down in thought, admitting the sudden move startled even him. His hood has fallen back, revealing a shock of messy black hair. He reflects on the sudden, incredible acceleration and the pure chaos of that moment. Suddenly, a spectator points a trembling finger at Kay, screaming in disbelief. But he's not pointing at the victory, but the color of Kay's energy, black. The blonde examiner watches with a grim, serious expression, noting internally, with growing concern, that black is the very same color possessed by creatures. Even Ellie Cyan looks utterly stunned, wondering if it's even truly possible for a human to possess that color of energy. Kate stands alone in the center of the arena, blissfully unaware of the true gravity of the situation. The others question if the power to defeat the Gale, sword in one hit, comes from this mysterious black energy. Kay looks around nervously at the shocked crowd, perplexed by their intense reaction, and innocently wonders if he's made a mistake. The tournament continues with even more intense battles. In one match, a terrified candidate launches sharp, deadly stones, but Kay charges forward, easily evading them. He closes the distance instantly and delivers a devastatingly powerful punch, sending the magic user absolutely flying. The announcer declares him the victor. Kay's winning streak continues as he utterly dominates, violently slamming another opponent and swiftly knocking out a third. High above, the blonde examiner watches with keen interest, declaring that Kay is the absolute standout applicant. He excitedly notes that Kay is the first ever black holder and insists they must recruit him immediately before rumors of his power spread. Suddenly, heavy footsteps approach and a voice casually remarks that it looks like a tough day. The blonde examiner turns in surprise to see the red-haired man and blue-haired woman from the explosion site. The examiner asks why Team Leader Red is here, but the man waves a dismissive hand, claiming they're just passing by. They briefly discuss the ongoing investigation concerning the massive creature incident. The Red Leader lets out a weary sigh, admitting there's been no progress whatsoever. He then asks if any worthy candidates are left. The examiner brings up the young lady from the esteemed Tyan family and one incredibly unique candidate. Suddenly, the Red Leader's eyes widen, sensing something profound. He glances into the arena and immediately spots Kay, instantly noticing his dark, swirling energy. Even as the examiner praises Kay, the Red Leader fixates silently on the young man. The blue-haired woman whispers to her leader, asking if that kid is tied to their current investigation. The Red Leader confirms it's highly likely him. Internally, the Red Leader concludes that a new color, appearing right now, right after the recent Shadow District incident, is simply too great a coincidence to ignore. He resolves to keep a close watch on Kay for now. Unaware he's currently under such scrutiny, Kay looks down at his clenched fist, still smoking with dark energy. He's absolutely thrilled by his newfound, incredible power, realizing that becoming a pioneer is finally within his grasp. However, he remembers the heavy physical toll the transformation took, and sternly warns himself to proceed with caution. He knows that if he pushes this power too far and loses his color mid-fight, he'll be utterly defenseless. A massive surge of freezing energy suddenly erupts from the arena, creating an impenetrable wall of ice. Ellie Cyan stands composed amidst the chilling mist. The announcer loudly declares number 17, the winner, revealing she's utterly encased her opponent in a solid block of ice. The spectators, including Kay, watch on in stunned awe, commenting that the Cyan family's color is always incredibly impressive. as Ellie gracefully descends the stairs. Kay watches her, wondering how anyone could possibly defeat such overwhelming magic. Suddenly, Ellie abruptly halts as she passes Kay, staring directly at him with a sharp, curious gaze. Her blue eyes narrow suspiciously as she scrutinizes him, utterly silent. She then turns and continues walking, leaving Kay utterly confused. The announcer declares the first exam officially concluded. The blonde examiner then takes to the podium and thanks everyone for their hard work and effort. He explains that since they're already behind schedule, they'll move straight into the next test. He then instructs the failed candidates to leave, and they walk away, looking utterly dejected. The blonde examiner begins to announce the next test, but is abruptly interrupted by a hand on his shoulder. A red-haired man steps forward with a confident, knowing smile. Taking over, he gazes at the surviving candidates and boldly declares that the second exam will be led personally by him. The candidates look up in shock, realizing exactly who stands before them. It's none other than colorist Red. He's one of the Shining City's strongest colorists, famous for single-handedly retaking the Blacklands. However, the candidates are absolutely terrified, recalling chilling rumors that his destructive power is so intense that even allies hesitate to work alongside him, and that when he's in charge of an exam, and one ever passes, the blonde examiner looks worriedly at colorist Red, asking if he's sure, warning that the captain will scold him for changing the exam format. Red just laughs it off, stating he gets nagged every single day anyway. He announces that the test is simple and tells the crowd to just endure as his body erupts in massive, scorching flames. A giant wave of fire surges toward the terrified applicants, forming individual, spherical barriers around each and every person, trapping them. The candidates panic as they're enveloped in intense, blistering heat. Red explains that he has recreated the environment of a certain region, noting it's going to get pretty hot. He illustrates that the Blacklands are full of extreme environments where humans can barely even survive. He belittles the current test, claiming this heat is nothing more than a warm stove. With a serious expression, Red reiterates that if they endure, they pass. However, his eyes narrow, turning icy cold, as he declares that anyone who can't brave this heat never had what it takes to be a true pioneer. Inside the fiery spheres, the candidates are absolutely suffering. One man realizes he can't even scratch the barrier, while others scream in sheer agony. They wonder in utter terror what kind of hellish nightmare the Blacklands must be. If this is considered a mild test, watching from the sidelines, the blonde examiner notes that despite all the rumors, Red's skills haven't dulled in the slightest. He marvels at Red's incredible, precise control, observing how he instantly enveloped so many people. He acknowledges that this raw power is exactly what you'd expect from someone at the absolute peak. Suddenly, a loud, sharp cracking sound cuts through the air. Red and his assistant both look over, as one of the fire barriers suddenly turns blue and fractures. A massive surge of ice energy then explodes outward, shattering the entire fire sphere. Amidst the falling shards of ice, Ellie Kyan stands tall, having broken completely free. Red looks at her, admitting this is pretty good. He reflects that while the Kyan family's power is a natural counter to fire, his own power is usually strong enough to completely overwhelm that advantage. Staring at the young woman, Red concludes She might actually deserve to be called a real prodigy. Red wonders about the other candidate they were so interested in. Inside his fire sphere, Kay appears to be standing perfectly still. Red observes him, noting that unlike the girl, this boy isn't breaking through at all. He admits he didn't expect much from him anyway. However, inside the barrier, Kay is absolutely panicking, screaming internally that he's in huge trouble. He realizes he used way too much of his color. During the fight with the Gale sword, he looks at his hand in sheer horror, noticing his black energy is leaking out and draining even faster in this oppressive heat. Kate imagines a terrifying future where his power completely runs out. He knows if he's revealed to be colorless, he will likely be experimented on. Desperate, he frantically looks for any solution, wondering if he can absorb something to replenish his energy. He fixates on the wall of intense fire when a realization suddenly hits him. Since this barrier is a color ability, he questions if he can absorb it. He glances at his hand, admitting he doesn't know the limits of his absorption power. With no time left to ponder, he resolves to find out. He reaches out, touching the swirling wall of fire. Immediately, a violent reaction occurs, and Kay is shocked that direct absorption is actually working. The fire barrier begins to warp and twist, drawing the attention of nearby candidates. A massive vortex of black energy erupts from Kay, sucking the red flames into his hand. From the podium, Red and the blonde examiner stare down, stunned and unable to comprehend what they're seeing. Red breaks into a nervous sweat, forcing a smile as he remarks, "They've found a real lunatic in the arena." Kay stands amidst the dissipating energy, looking terrifyingly powerful, with red and black auras swirling around his hands. The entire arena falls into a heavy silence. However, internally, Kay is panicking again. He forces a smile, thinking this wasn't supposed to happen. He realizes with regret that he has accidentally stood out way too much. Ellie Kyan stands frozen, questioning if she's hallucinating as she stares at the young man, enveloped in dark energy. She looks at Kay and wonders if black is even a color a human can possess. Recognizing this is something unprecedented, a sense of anxiety washes over her as she watches him. Memories of the pressure to be the best flash through her mind. She's forced to admit that Kay is undeniably strong. She realizes that even with her full power, she couldn't guarantee a win. As Kay walks away, Ellie thinks there's something about him that can't be explained by strength alone. Asking herself what he actually is, she quickly shakes her head, trying to dismiss the disturbing thoughts. The colorist, Red, approaches Kay, casually wrapping an arm around his shoulder. "Next time won't be like this," he tells him. Red flashes a smile, remarking that the black ability to suck everything in was wild, and he can't hold back his curiosity. He guides Kay away, suggesting they have a private conversation. This way, Kay's privacy is protected, while Red satisfies his own questions. Kay, sweating nervously, asks about his exam status. Red assures him that with a power level like that, he obviously passed. Kay is stunned, realizing that drawing so much attention worked in his favor. He is overcome with emotion, thinking he has finally achieved his dream of becoming a pioneer. Suddenly, the blonde examiner yells at Red for acting on his own. Red laughs it off, asking his colleague to overlook it just this once. The examiner sighs and announces that, despite the interruption, the exam will continue. He clarifies that number 17, Ellie, has passed because she broke the barrier, but The other candidates will undergo an additional test. Ellie ignores the announcement, her gaze fixed on the dark tunnel, where Red is leading Kay away. The scene shifts to an industrial setting. Red stands outside a car with Kay, while the blue-haired investigator sits in the driver's seat. Red tells her to wait. Kay looks at his surroundings, and his expression turns to pure shock. He stares at a massive landscape of rubble and destruction, realizing with horror that Red has brought him back to the exact location where he fell into the ink waste. Colorist Red looks over the devastated ruins, remarking that it's an ugly sight. He explains that a major incident occurred here, causing Kay to freeze. Red recounts that for the first time in history, 2 pioneers were found, completely drained and colorless. He adds that eyewitnesses saw a massive creature at the site. Red whirls around, fixing his gaze on Kay. He immediately points out the suspicious timing. He observes that right after that creature appeared, Kay emerged as the first to possess the color black. Calling that a coincidence? His eyes glow ominously. Red then analyzes Kay's power, describing it as an ability that absorbs all other colors. Kay sweats nervously as Red stares him down, declaring, "This is a completely foreign ability." Internally, Kay's mind begins to panic, realizing Red suspected this connection from the very start. He frantically wonders if he can even run, but looking at the man's overwhelming aura, he realizes escaping a hero is utterly impossible. Suddenly, Red lets out a booming laugh, breaking the tension as he waves his hand. He admits he was just testing Kay, but then complains. Kay's honest reaction took all the fun out of it. Kay stares at him in utter confusion. Red then clarifies that, while his official job is to investigate the incident, he's personally far more interested in Kay's unique ability. Red explains that color powers normally cannot mix at all whatsoever. However, he observes that Kay's ability seems to completely ignore those rules. He recalls the second exam, pointing out that Kay clearly couldn't control his power then. Kay then stammers, trying to explain, but Red sharply interrupts him. The colorist's body begins to glow with red energy, and he states that they need to run a test. Kay looks at him confused. Red extends his hand, explaining that he needs to understand how this ability works. He smiles confidently, challenging Kay to try absorbing his energy now. Kay panics and tries to refuse, warning Red it's too dangerous. Red simply laughs, telling the rookie he's far too early to be worrying about someone of his level. Kay falls silent, looking intense and deeply nervous, as Red commands him to stop talking and just try it. Black symbolizes the ominous Blacklands, a terrifying force that devours everything. Red thinks that leaving such a dangerous ability unchecked is simply unacceptable, as it could utterly shatter the very foundation of their city. A sinister secret then clouds his thoughts. What people don't realize yet is that humanoid creatures truly exist. He gravely warns Kay, should he ever encounter them, or worse, ever become one himself, the colorist may be forced to eliminate him. Kay lets out a heavy sigh, sensing the terrifying pressure radiating from Red. Despite the intense intimidation, Kay agrees to the test. He nervously grasps Red's wrist, seeking confirmation that if anything were to go wrong, it wouldn't be his fault. As dark energy surges from his body, the very moment their hands connect, a shockwave of raw energy distorts the air. Kate gasps as Red's energy violently surges into his arm, a stark contrast to his own black aura. He instantly realizes he's made a grave mistake. A massive explosion of searing fire erupts violently from their contact point, sending Kei screaming in pure agony. Trapped within the inferno, he screams for Red to stop, admitting he utterly cannot control this power, and that it feels like molten hot. Lava is boiling within him. In his distorted vision, Red appears as a towering, godlike silhouette made of pure fire, reinforcing exactly why he's a true hero. Red stands calmly within the raging flames, observing. He notes that Kei's black energy is actively absorbing his power, without rest, behaving as if it's utterly starved. He realizes that because Kei's power is still immature, strong individuals can resist its absorption. However, this same ability would be instantly fatal to most ordinary people. As the furious flames swirl, Red's eyes narrow with even deeper curiosity. He muses that what they witnessed during the exam cannot possibly be the full extent of this ability. He's determined to find out, not just how Kei absorbs these colors, but precisely how those absorbed colors are utilized. The situation rapidly escalates. As the energy between the two violently reacts, Red watches as the black energy from Kei's arm begins to warp and spike, intertwining with the red aura. Suddenly, a massive explosion of red and black energy bursts outward. Red is forcefully pushed back by the blast. He stares in utter shock at the figure. As Kei emerges from the smoke, he's partially transformed. The entire right side of his body is now encased in jagged, demonic armor forged from solidified red and black energy. Red grits his teeth, realizing this terrifying form is eerily familiar. As he gazes at Kei's monstrous, clawed hand and glowing eye, Red admits to himself he believed he was staring at a monstrous creature. The striking resemblance instantly confirms his suspicions, and he realizes with terrifying certainty that Kei was indeed behind the incident, where the other pioneers lost their colors. Meanwhile, Kei struggles fiercely to maintain consciousness. Red decides his absolute priority is safety, and he resolves to put out this raging fire. Before Kei goes on a full-blown rampage, he summons a powerful ball of flame, preparing to subdue Kei by any force necessary. However, Kei lets out a low, guttural growl, causing Red to pause, as the boy seems to be fighting something else. The scene shifts to Kei's internal perspective, a terrifying, pitch-black void filled with demanding red text. The insidious voices of the power scream at him, demanding intense color and urging him to bring more. Kei gasps in the real world, utterly distressed by these intrusive, maddening voices. The voices relentlessly continue to tempt him, whispering it's wasteful to hold back, and urging him just take it. Kei mentally screams at the voices to shut up, and to stay still with fierce determination. Kei's visible eye blazes crimson red. He fiercely rejects the temptation, ordering the power to shut up and stay crushed. As he exerts his formidable will over the chaotic energy, a powerful shockwave blasts outward. As he forcibly compresses the energy back down, the jagged armor rapidly dissipates, leaving Red with a look of genuine, utter surprise. Kei is left panting heavily, utterly exhausted from the exertion. Red stares at him, utterly impressed and stunned, asking did the rookie actually manage to suppress that overwhelming power. All on his own, Kei is left panting, his heart still racing. He thinks it's insane he actually survived, and frantically wonders why he went berserk. He glances up, nervously, terrified. He lost control right in front of a colorist. knowing he must understand his own abilities. He hesitantly approaches the older man. Red, however, looks utterly delighted. He admits he was caught off guard, because the power K absorbed was far stronger than he expected. But he grins, declaring the experiment a massive success, simply because it was fun. He tells K that if he wants to achieve anything truly great, he has to be willing to take monumental risks. Red decides that's enough for the test, but then pauses, adding there's just one more thing. He reminds K he's the investigator, assigned to the destruction incident at this very spot, and his duty is to find the culprit. With a calm, yet utterly threatening smile, he points out that the person standing right in front of him looks like a perfect suspect. K freezes, his face pale with panic. Red explains the full gravity of the situation. He recalls how witnesses saw a massive shadow creature, warning K that more people are interested in this case than he thinks. He argues that once rumors about K's black ability spread, it will be incredibly easy for authorities to pin the blame on him. He gestures to the ruined industrial district, noting the damages will cost hundreds of millions. He adds that if the city leadership decides K is too dangerous, he could be banished or even turned into a lab rat. K grinds his teeth in bitter frustration, realizing he's utterly trapped. He knows there's no way to prove his innocence. Suddenly, Red offers a surprising lifeline. He suggests that if K agrees to come under his command, he might be able to do something. Without a second of hesitation, K bows at a perfect 90-degree angle, loudly shouting that he puts himself completely in Red's care. Red tells him to listen to the full condition first. He clarifies he won't fix everything for free. In exchange, K will have to grant him a few favors. He asks if K thinks he can handle that. K forces a desperate, trembling smile. Internally, he screams that anything is better than owing millions, or becoming a twisted science experiment. He loudly agrees, vowing to do absolutely anything Red needs. In this desolate wasteland, a small creature trembles in terror. Just moments before, a massive wheel slams down, narrowly missing it as a heavy vehicle roars past. A large, armored transport truck drives through the foggy, rugged terrain of the Blacklands. Inside, Kate gazes out the window, thinking this is his first time venturing so far out, and wondering if this marks his first real step as a pioneer. Suddenly, his thoughts are interrupted by Gale, a green-haired man who glares at him, calling him Black-Haired One. Gale rudely tells Kay he's being distracting, and orders him to shut up, even though Kay hasn't said a word. Kay looks at him with a confused expression. Kay sits awkwardly in the transport bay, thinking starting as a pioneer immediately was what he wanted, but the atmosphere is tense. He glances at the furious Gale and the silent Ellie Cyan, questioning if being on the same team is the right move. A flashback reveals a conversation from the day before. Red asks to surprise Kay if he's ready to join the exploration, explaining he needs him to go to a specific spot in the uncharted area. Seeing Kay's nervous expression, Red laughs and tells him not to worry. Red shows Kay a map, assuring him he won't be alone. He explains that new recruits who pass the exam will also be deployed to the area, and that the official roadmap will be announced soon. Kay just needs to be at the location on time. Back in the present, Kay looks at his teammates, noting they were already on the truck. It's revealed that because Reds meddling compromised the previous exam, the participants were given another chance. Many skilled individuals, including Gale, passed grueling additional tests. Meanwhile, Ellie Cyan, the top-ranked rookie, joined Red's team at her own specific request. Gale stares at Kay with intense resentment, unable to believe he was humiliated by a fool. He thinks back to their fight, convinced he only lost because he let his guard down, and vows it won't ever happen again. Gale threatens Kay, warning him to be ready once this exploration ends. He mutters that if Ravian hadn't backed him up, Kay would already be dead meat. Ellie Cyan cuts in, icy cold, telling Gale to shut his trap, mocking that he'd probably drop in one hit. Gale whirls on her again, seething, demanding to know what she just said. Ellie waves him off, stating Gale is no match for Kay. Kay looks at Ellie, surprised and hopeful, thinking maybe she's someone he can actually relate to. However, Ellie then turns her icy gaze to Kay, confusing him by bringing up a past agreement they supposedly made. She glares at him, stating that the loser needs to stay quiet and just follow orders, leaving Kay utterly bewildered. Stands awkwardly between the two hostile pioneers. Feeling the immense pressure, he sighs, realizing this team dynamic will be tough to manage. The scene shifts as the transport vehicle moves across the dark waters of the desolate wasteland towards a distant, shadowy facility. The vehicle finally arrives at a bustling loading dock, with workers busily moving supplies. The group disembarks. Kay, Ellie, Gale, and the other recruits walk out into the forward base. For the legendary Dawn Pioneering Corps, Kay is absolutely in awe of the sheer level of activity, noting the S-rank Corps' exceptional supplies, something he hadn't realized when he ventured into the Black Lands all alone. Suddenly, a finger pokes Kai's cheek, startling him. He turns to see a cheerful Mari, who brightly explains that, since this is his very first mission, she just had to come along to support him. Mari opens her jacket, revealing Nero has tagged along. Kate gently holds the black cat, thanking Mari for taking such good care of him. She smiles warmly, saying Nero is family. She then explains she got a fantastic opportunity to join the exploration team as vital support staff, stating her skills are super useful here. A loudspeaker blares. It's assembly time. The crowd of pioneers stands ready in the gray wasteland as the announcement loudly continues. They're about to venture into the ominous Black Lands. Kate gently places Nero into Mari's arms, asking her to look after him carefully. Mari sternly warns him not to do anything reckless, and he just smiles, promising to see her soon. Mari holds Nero close, but the cat suddenly springs from her grasp. Startled, she cries out Nero's name as the feline dashes straight for Kay and melts right into the shadow on the ground. Mari's eyes widen in absolute shock at this bizarre movement, and she stammers, utterly confused, trying to call out to Kay. The group soon reaches a dark, heavily fortified cave entrance. At the forefront, a woman with vibrant orange hair and a white coat shouts for everyone to prepare themselves, loudly announcing that a new recruit is about to enter the perilous Blacklands. She screams that safety is their absolute top priority. She warns that recon has reported unidentified, highly dangerous creatures lurking in Area 21, an extremely hazardous zone, in fact, where even an A-rank creature's body was discovered. Suddenly, a male pioneer rushes up to the orange-haired woman, calling her Orancia, and nervously reports that Red, the team leader, has brought the new recruits, but they've left their formation without permission. Orancia's eyes widen in shock, and she demands if it's true. The messenger confirms it. Orancia sighs heavily, muttering that guy's causing trouble again. Meanwhile, the group secretly enters a dark canyon, moving discreetly away from the main army. Red reaches his hand deep into the shadows, leading the way as the small squad, consisting of Kay, Gale, Ellie, and Red, separates from the main formation. Kay nervously asks the team leader if this is even allowed, pointing out that the main team is heading in a completely different direction. Red confirms their destination is different. Kay glances back at Gale and Ellie, worried because the entire squad consists of new recruits. Gale suddenly snaps, demanding to know why he and Ellie had to follow. He shouts that he heard Red only intended to take Kay, and he feels totally insulted. Red just smiles, his red aura flaring brightly. He calmly explains that as personal guidance, this isn't something just anyone can receive. So it wouldn't be fair if Kay was the only one to benefit. He assures the fuming Gale that, while he won't spoon-feed them, he also won't let them get seriously hurt. He cuts the conversation short, ordering them to move out. Kay's eyes widen as they encounter enemies. Deep inside a cavern, the group is surrounded by shadow creatures. While Red holds a lantern, Kay, Gale, and Ellie engage in a chaotic melee. A massive, wolf-like beast lunges out of the darkness. Ellie Kyan reacts instantly, her blue energy sword piercing through the creature's body. She lands gracefully, realizing this is the reality of the Black Lands, surrounded by glowing eyes. She notes the suffocating environment and constant waves of monsters. Acknowledging it's different from training, she grips her sword, resolving to manage her strength carefully. Ellie glances over her shoulder, thinking she needs to move more efficiently. She looks at Kay and tells herself she doesn't want to fall behind him. Meanwhile, Kay grips a shadow creature by the neck and brutally crushes it with his bare hands. Ellie Kyan looks at Kay with total shock. She asks him why he isn't using a dropper. Kay hesitates, recalling the entry exam, and admits that he doesn't have one. He explains they are too expensive, and that he feels fine fighting without one, leaving Ellie staring in disbelief. Gale is flabbergasted, shouting, "It makes no sense for a pioneer to have never used one. A dropper is an essential tool for pioneers, used to infuse weapons with color energy, to fight creatures, to properly hunt these monsters. One must color them using a dropper." The group looks at Kay, standing over the defeated enemies, and they question how he managed to defeat them, barehanded, without the essential tool. Gale's hand trembles as he grips his own weapon, realizing the gap in their abilities. He recalls the humiliation of the exam, realizing he couldn't even scratch someone who wasn't even using a dropper. Gale grits his teeth, simmering with frustration. He glares venomously at Kay's retreating back, swearing to himself that he'll crush Kay with his own hands one day. As they delve deeper into the treacherous cave, Red confidently leads the way, lantern in hand, while Gale follows, absolutely seething with rage. Red glances back at his squad, a sly smirk playing on his lips, thinking it's not bad at all to see two geniuses getting motivated by a mere rookie. He smiles wider, believing things are only going to get even more interesting. He then cheerfully urges the group to put in a bit more effort, telling them they're almost there. He suggests they finish quickly to throw a party. After the battle against the shadow beasts, the carcasses of the wolf-like creatures lie scattered. Colorist Red then calls for a 10-minute break, though he warns the group, Gale, Kay, and Ellie Cyan, that the real mission hasn't even begun yet. Gale sighs, grumbling. He's already used up a significant amount of his color energy. He pulls out a small bottle of glowing green liquid. As Gale drinks, Kay identifies it as personal ink. This is a specially refined alchemical ink, an essential but incredibly rare supply for pioneers that instantly restores their color. But because it must be crafted to perfectly match the user's unique color, it's insanely expensive. Kay watches with pure envy as both Gale and Ellie drink their custom inks. Wishing he had the funds for such extravagant luxuries, Kay quickly dismisses the thought. Walking away from the group, he reaches his hand out toward a defeated shadow creature's corpse. A massive swirl of dark energy erupts from its body as Kay activates his ability, absorbing the shadow directly into his outstretched hand. The black energy flows into him. Kay clenches his fist, his energy now fully restored. He then announces, "My recovery is complete." He turns back to his teammates, who are staring with utter horror and disbelief. Ellie hesitantly asks, "Are you sure you're okay?" Kay waves off their concern with a casual hand. He explains he's done this a few times before. Gale shouts in disbelief that Kay just absorb a monster without even flinching. Before they can continue, Red interrupts them, declaring the break is officially over. The group ventures deeper into the canyon until Red announces they've arrived. The team beholds a massive, swirling dome of pure black energy blocking their path. Kay stares, muttering that it looks like a black curtain. Red smiles at Kay's stunned expression and reveals that this dark barrier is the specific reason he brought Kay along. To demonstrate, Red summons a ball of red energy and unleashes a powerful beam at the black dome. The attack hits the surface, but instead of breaking through, the energy is instantly swallowed by the darkness. Red explains that if anyone tries to force the barrier open, it just absorbs the power and becomes even tougher. He notes that this is very similar to Kay's own ability, which is why he had a hunch that Kay will be the only one capable of erasing it. Red points toward the dark wall, revealing that the path to the ruins lies inside. He announces that within those ruins hides their true objective, the Stella fragment. Kay's eyes widen in shock. The other recruits are confused. Gale asks what Stella is, and Ellie admits she's never heard of it. Red assures them it exists, and that the Shining City is desperate to find it. He points a finger at Kay, ordering him to get rid of the curtain. Kay steps forward toward the towering wall of darkness. As he touches it, his absorption ability activates, and the barrier's black energy begins to flow violently. Into his hand, a massive vortex forms, as the giant dome is funneled into Kay. Gale and Ellie watch as the obstacle is devoured. Red watches with an amazed grin, delighted his theory was correct. As the barrier disappears, he tells Kay his power will be extremely useful. However, Kay looks unhappy, sweating and trembling as he struggles to contain the massive amount of energy he just absorbed. Suddenly, a violent tremor rattles the ground. Gale and Ellie panic as the tremors intensify, realizing this loud noise will surely attract hordes of deadly creatures. Kay's actions unleash a thunderous rumble that echoes through the canyon. Then, a horde of dark black, wolf-like monsters emerges from the cliffs. The group now finds themselves completely surrounded. Ellie and Gale immediately draw their weapons. Meanwhile, Red merely laughs at the sheer number of creatures gathered to welcome them. Red then commands the rest of his team to handle the creatures, while Kay focuses on dismantling the curtain. With a cold expression, the team leader orders his squad to wipe out every monster. Gale and Ellie spring into action, Gale moves with incredible lightning speed, slicing through the shadow creatures with wind-infused attacks. Ellie, in turn, unleashes her power, summoning massive ice spikes from the ground to impale multiple enemies. While the two recruits clash fiercely, Red watches them intently. He notes he was prepared to step in, but finds there's no need. Effortlessly, he summons orbs of red energy and fires powerful beams that pierce through the remaining beasts. Red muses that even though they are new recruits, their skill level is more than high enough. Meanwhile, Kay struggles to absorb the massive barrier. Red, sweating profusely, simply smiles, thinking how truly nice it is when his subordinates do the hard work. With Red standing guard, Kay struggles intensely with the volatile energy. Kneeling on the ground, he realizes the curtain's power feels eerily similar to his own. He wonders if it's because they share the same black attribute. He then realizes the danger if he loses focus. The curtain's massive energy will reverse the flow and steal his own color instead. Kate grinds his teeth, refusing to be overwhelmed, and declares he is the stronger one. With a final, massive effort, the absorption completes. He stands at the path's edge, panting heavily, confirming he has absorbed everything. He peers down into the chilling void hidden behind the barrier, and is utterly shocked to behold a massive, bottomless, inky black pit. He wonders if this terrifying abyss could truly be the entrance to the ruins. With his task complete, he spins around calling out to the team leader, announcing the barrier has been successfully removed. With the barrier finally down, Red commends Kay on a job well done. He then calls out to the rest of the team, announcing the main obstacle is gone, and ordering them to finish cleaning up the area. Suddenly, Red's face twists into pure shock, as he senses an immediate, grave danger. Moving with blinding, impossible speed, he lunges forward, forcibly grabbing both Ellie and Gale. Yanking them back just an instant later, a massive, invisible energy blade tears through the air, carving deep gouges into the very ground, exactly where they had been standing moments before. The attack proves devastating, shredding any remaining shadow monsters. Debris rains down as Red, Ellie, and Gale lands safely on a higher slope. Gale gazes on in horror, realizing he would have been instantly killed without Red's lightning-fast intervention. Red's expression darkens, sighing that the earlier lack of resistance was because something far worse was scaring the monsters away. He recalls a report that a truly dangerous entity was lurking nearby. Through the settling dust, a silhouette appears, walking toward them, dragging a massive sword. Red grimly states they're out of time to fool around. The attacker steps into the light. It's a man with spiky hair, white on one side and black on the other. Half of his face is consumed by a dark, mask-like growth, and he carries a collection of various weapons. On his back, the stranger glares at the pioneers. With a terrifying, oppressive aura, Red stands protectively between his team and the new threat, ordering Kay and the others to listen carefully. Red hurriedly shoves a lantern into Kay's hands, giving him a frantic, urgent order. He tells Kay and the others they must enter the ruins immediately and hunt down the Stella fragment. Kay glares at the team leader, his eyes wide with sheer anxiety. He asks if Red seriously expects them to dive into that pit alone. Red assures him that with their unique abilities, they're more than capable of handling it. However, Red doesn't even wait for them to agree. With a sudden, powerful burst of force, he shoves Kay, Ellie, and Gale straight into the dark abyss, shouting for them to stop whining and just go. Kay screams out the team leader's name in utter panic, as the 3 recruits plummet into the crushing deep pit. Left alone, Red stands with his back to the drop, his ominous red aura fiercely glowing. The voice of one of the recruits echoes from the depths, asking what they're even supposed to do on their own. Meanwhile, the menacing silhouette of the armed stranger looms ominously behind Red. The 2 powerful figures lock eyes in a tense, silent standoff, and Red knows a truly difficult battle is about to explode. The scene shifts to the pitch-black bottom of the abyss. Kay lies motionless after the devastatingly long fall. He groans in agony, clutching his aching head, as he struggles to stand amidst the suffocating darkness. Remembering the lantern Red gave him, he activates it, wondering if he's finally inside the ruins. The light flares violently to life, illuminating the area. Kay's expression instantly shifts to one of absolute, pure terror. He stands utterly frozen in shock, asking himself, what is this place? Instead of ancient, crumbling stone ruins, the lantern illuminates the skeletal remains of massive, modern skyscrapers and vast concrete debris, looking exactly like a destroyed, modern city utterly buried underground. Kay stands precariously on a high ledge, using his lantern to cut through the oppressive darkness. He's speechless at the overwhelming sight of the massive, ruined city structures, all buried deep underground. He marvels that such an impossible place could even exist, but grumbles that he still can't see clearly. Suddenly, a voice tells him to stop all his complaining and just head toward the light. Kay is utterly relieved to see his teammates, Gale and Ellie, admitting he was absolutely terrified of being separated. Gale, ever the complainer, blames Kay for making them wander, but Ellie sharply retorts that Gale was just as hopelessly lost. Staring out at the vast, shattered city, Gale questions what kind of place this is. A wave of anxiety washes over him as he points out the sheer absurdity of trying to find Estella, fragment amidst these endless ruins, when they don't even know what it looks like. Kay nods in agreement, admitting that a blind search would take an eternity. Kay silently wishes his trusty companion, Nero, were here. As if in response, a faint glowing shape suddenly appears, and he's utterly shocked to see the small black cat, Nero, right at his feet. Kay instantly panics, wondering how the cat managed to follow them. Ellie spots the animal and innocently asks if it's a creature. Kay's blood runs cold, thinking he's in deep trouble now that his secret pet has been discovered. However, he quickly calms down, realizing this might actually be a golden opportunity. To prove the cat's worth, he calls out to Gale and Ellie. Holding Nero, Kay smiles confidently and announces he has a surefire way to find the Stella fragment. The group gathers as Kay explains that the little creature he's been raising will lead them directly to their objective. Gale shouts angrily, flat out refusing to believe it. While Gale argues, Ellie completely ignores him, captivated by the cat's undeniable cuteness. Kay decides to demonstrate Nero's incredible abilities. The black cat cries out from Ellie's arms, then leaps out her arms, startling her as it hangs mid-air. The cat transforms into a swirling vortex of pure energy. A blinding light erupts, illuminating the dark ruins, and leaving the entire group in utter shock. The ball of light streaks forward, creating an illuminated path for them, and the 3 pioneers eagerly follow it. As they walk, Gale expresses his utter disbelief. questioning how a creature can possess such intelligence and a special ability like this. He demands to know where Kay possibly found it. Kay ignores him and interprets the glowing cat's movements, telling the group that Nero's message is clear. The Stella fragment is right there. Suddenly, the creature notices a distinct trail and shoots away. The trail of light winds through the ruined city, and the group arrives at a massive, imposing concrete structure. A dark tunnel looms ahead. Kay wonders just how much deeper they'll have to go. Gale mocks him, asking if he's scared. Kay shoots back a retort, declaring they're going in. They walk through a massive, high-ceiling corridor, with a glowing cat lighting their way. Kay remarks that the facility is much larger than he expected. Suddenly, he notices Nero hovering in front of a large metal door, concluding it must have found something important. The silence is broken by the heavy sound of a massive, mechanical foot. Kay freezes as a giant metal leg lands right in front of them. The recruits look up to see a towering, rusted automaton standing before them. Gale is confused, noting it looks different from the biological creatures they're used to fighting. Suddenly, the robot activates a scanning beam, sweeping a sheet of light over Ellie Cyan. The machine processes her data, displaying a hex code for a bright blue color. The scanner then moves to Gale, registering his green color code. The beam finally lands on Kay, who nervously realizes the machine is scanning their colors. To identify them, the machine completes the scan, displaying the hex code for absolute pitch black. Upon detecting this, the robot's eye glows brighter. It announces it has detected the color of the Black Witch, and identifying Kay as a threat. It declares it will begin elimination. Confused by the title, Kay is hit by the robot's devastating punch. Before he can react, he's sent skidding backward, groaning in pain, but managing to block the direct hit. He glares up at the machine. With fury, shouting in frustration, Kay shouts defiantly at the machine, declaring they will not hold back. The giant robot raises its massive fist, threatening to smash them. Kay charges forward his fist, colliding violently with the machine's metal arm. He recoils in pain, wondering why its armor is so tough. Gale watches in confusion as the robot winds up for another crushing blow. Ellie swiftly steps in, striking the machine with her rapier, but sparks fly wildly as her blade scrapes against its armor. She stares wide-eyed in utter shock, realizing she hasn't even left a single scratch. Ellie panics, fearing her powers are totally ineffective against the machine. Meanwhile, Kay quickly analyzes the opponent, noticing the glowing core pulsating in its chest. He spots a strange liquid swirling inside, and immediately identifies it as the weak point. Kay dashes forward, unleashing a sharp left hook. But suddenly, the robot reacts with shocking speed, swinging its massive arm like a club. Kay just barely manages to evade the heavy blow. He's forced to retreat, frustrated that his normal attacks are having no effect. Then a realization hits him. He remembers the time. His body was coated in black energy, and decides to tap into that power. Knowing a full transformation consumes too much color, he compromises by concentrating all his energy solely into his powerful right fist, coating it in a dense layer of black aura. With his preparation complete, Kay leaps high into the air and swings his enhanced fist with all his might. The blow lands perfectly, piercing straight through the robot's chest and shattering its core. The sheer force of the punch completely destroys the machine's upper body. The robot's head flies clean off, and the light in its eye fades. Kay stands amidst the wreckage, letting out a sigh of relief, as Gale and Ellie watch in silence. Amidst the scattered debris, Kay notices a round object and picks up the robot's core, thinking Marie would be happy with it as a gift. Suddenly, Gale yells at Kay, demanding to know what that power was. He and Ellie corner Kay, bombarding him with questions. Kay nervously deflects their questions by claiming the technique drains his color severely. As he speaks, the large metal door behind them begins to slide open, revealing a pitch-black void. Suddenly, Nero flies out of the darkness, crying out in panic. The cat hovers near Kay. Shaking in fear, Kay looks toward the dark doorway, feeling a strange presence. That despite the cat's dire warning, he steps closer, admitting he can't make out a thing inside. The moment his fingertips make contact, that the black surface ripples like disturbed water. Suddenly, the darkness erupts outward. Massive tendrils of shadow surge from the doorway, enveloping the group. Gale and Ellie scream as they're dragged violently toward the entrance, helpless against the immense force. All three are sucked into the terrifying black void. The group plummets through an endless black space, landing in a new, pitch-black environment. Gale groans, clutching himself in pain, complaining about the rough fall and the oppressive darkness. He lifts his hands to quickly check on himself, then pauses, noticing something utterly strange. He looks down at his chest and clutches his jacket in pure shock. He realizes his signature color, the green that defines his power, has completely vanished, leaving him in stark black and white. Kate and Ellie stand frozen beside him, equally horrified. The entire world around them, including their own bodies, has lost all saturation. They stand bewildered in this monochrome reality, confused and absolutely terrified, wondering what horrific thing has happened to them. Far from the underground ruins, a small scorpion scurries across the desolate wasteland, with a radiant, shining city gleaming in the background. Meanwhile, somewhere within the city, stands a formidable Eastern government office. Inside, a large official known as the chief yells furiously, demanding to know if he has been located. A nervous subordinate reports that the individual in question is currently on an exploration mission. With colorist red, they add that the boy specifically asked them not to meddle. The chief is absolutely furious, shouting about black. He cannot believe red would bring someone with such a dangerous color onto the field. He rants that even though red is a hero, this has completely crossed the line. The chief explains that a recent creature appearance has the ruling council in a complete uproar, terrified that the catastrophic black wave has begun. He complains he will be the one to take all the blame. As he speaks, a young woman with vibrant pink and yellow hair smiles teasingly. Looks like the chief's temper is flaring up once more. Camellia, a woman of calm demeanor and leader of the Dawn Pioneering Corps, advises the chief to rein it in before he lands himself in the infirmary. She calmly states she understands his worries, but warns him not to get ahead of himself. Does he honestly think Red would ever act without proper thought? She argues Red is a dependable safeguard, absolutely perfect for watching over the boy. Camellia suggests that involving a high-risk individual could actually yield surprisingly positive results. She sips her tea thoughtfully, asserting that what they truly need now is trust, not endless worry. Camellia grimaces, the tea bitter on her tongue. The chief, however, completely ignores her, dumping an absurd amount of sugar into the pot, while she silently wonders, How anyone can stomach such sickening sweetness? The chief snaps at her to focus up. Camelia's expression turns deadly serious. She acknowledges the chief's wariness of black, knowing it's tied to the legendary Black Witch. She narrates that black symbolizes death and fear itself, referencing a catastrophic historical event caused by the witch, the first Black Wave. She explains humanity nearly perished back then, as the world was shrouded in a dark mist, and terrifying creatures emerged, creating the Blacklands. Camellia predicts another wave is absolutely inevitable, and their current exploration is ultimately about sheer survival. She mentions the recent anomalies and the sudden appearance of a black wielder. With a determined look, she tells the chief they must utilize every ounce of available power, even black, and urges him to persuade the council. The chief looks utterly resigned, admitting it's not as simple as she makes it sound. However, he gazes at a dossier, a photograph of Kay within, and promises to try his absolute best. Staring at the image, the chief muses that, perhaps, the city's entire fate might revolve around this one boy. Meanwhile, the three pioneers stand in an endless, pitch-black void, their bodies glowing as stark white outlines. They're completely lost and disoriented. Gale whips around to Kay, absolutely panicking, pointing a finger, and screaming that their vibrant colors have vanished, demanding to know why Kay still retains his Kay. Kay, bored, just replies he has no idea. He suggests it might be because his color is pure black, matching the sudden, encroaching darkness. Gale hunches over, completely exhausted. An Elysian clutches her head, aching, feeling weak. Kay watches, confused, wondering why he's perfectly fine. He realizes it might be because he's spent his entire life as a colorless person, so this is absolutely nothing new to him. Gale mentions a bizarre, unsettling sensation inside his body. He squints and sees a faint, glowing light pulsating within him like a core. Suddenly, creepy whispering sounds rain down on them. They look around in alarm, absolutely terrified. Gale shouts into the oppressive darkness, demanding whoever is whispering show themselves. Kay listens intently, wondering if it's the same voice that usually speaks to him, but quickly realizes it's something different. Just then, a dark, ghostly silhouette of a woman with flowing long hair emerges from the deepest shadows. Kay senses the presence and turns sharply. Gale and Ellie freeze in utter shock, stammering in pure fear. They're unable to identify if the ghostly form is even a creature, completely terrified because it appeared instantly, without a single warning. The mysterious shadow figure raises a hand and points a single finger at Kay's chest. Kay freezes, his eyes widening. As he realizes he's being singled out, his mind is violently pulled into a chaotic vision of a swirling vortex of destructive energy, consuming an entire city. The scene shifts to a terrifying, blood-red nightmare of a world in utter ruins, overrun by grotesque, massive beasts. A giant eye opens in the desolate sky, above a horde of menacing shadow creatures, while a truly terrifying, multi-eyed beast glares from the monstrous crowd. The vision cuts to the face of the mysterious woman, with long hair, staring at him with one glowing eye. Kay suddenly finds himself standing before a massive, blasted by overwhelming blue energy. He can't tell if this is memory or reality. His confusion deepens, making him question his very identity. Deep within his subconscious, a voice from a bright light declares he needs a name. Then a blurry, Smiling figure from his past bestows upon him the name K, urging him to find his own light and color. The vision abruptly shatters, and K gasps, jolted back to the present. He looks absolutely terrified, sweating profusely as the memory's shock hits him. He stumbles through the void, clutching his head and panting, cursing why such harrowing scenes are forcing their way into his mind. Kate grips his head, struggling to process the chaotic vision. He frantically tries to hold onto the fading memory, telling himself there must be an answer. Suddenly, the name Rumiel surfaces in his mind. He's utterly confused, wondering who that could be. His thoughts are violently interrupted by Gale, who has completely lost his composure. The swordsman screams wildly into the darkness, challenging invisible enemies, and swinging his sword around like a madman. Hallucinating a battle, Kay turns to see Gale, swinging his weapon, dangerously close to a cowering Ellie Cyan. Gale cries out, completely detached from reality. Ellie trembles, begging him to stop, please. Gale continues his violent rampage, shouting for everyone to die. His eyes are blackened and bleeding, showing the void has clearly driven him mad. Meanwhile, Ellie Cyan is trapped in her own nightmare. Tears of black liquid stream down her face as she clutches her head, apologizing to her sister, reliving a horrifying, traumatic memory. Kay watches on with deep concern, realizing his teammates are rapidly deteriorating. He understands this creature and this space are corrupting them both, and decides they must escape immediately. Suddenly, a familiar cue sound reverberates. Kay looks up to see a glowing, white shape flying swiftly toward him. He smiles in utter relief, realizing Nero is safe. He greets the cat, asking, "Are you okay?" Nero flies around frantically. He gestures into the distant horizon. Kay immediately understands. Nero's trying to tell him something's over there. The cat then zips off, leaving a dazzling trail of light. Kay decides to follow the trail. However, Kay pauses, glancing back at his teammates. Gale is still wildly swinging his sword over the terrified Ellie. Kay realizes he can't just leave them like this. He turns to Nero and asks if the cat can use his powers to help. Suddenly, a massive surge of purification light erupts from the cat, enveloping Gale and Ellie within its glow. The dark corruption immediately begins to evaporate. Ellie and Gale finally stop screaming as the malevolent black influence dissipates. Kay watches with a satisfied look, noting that the light is working its magic. With his teammates now protected, Kay tells them to stay put right here. He turns, determined to scout the path ahead alone. Kay walks deeper into the pitch-black void, following only Nero's faint light trail. He's growing frustrated, complaining that there's still absolutely nothing to be seen. As he turns his head, the unsettling whispering sounds return once more. A mysterious voice echoes out, telling him, "No color can touch you." Kay looks thoroughly annoyed, thinking that hearing nothing but cryptic riddles is absolutely infuriating. Suddenly, a bright, star-like light shines in the distance. Kay's expression immediately shifts to excitement, and he begins to run toward the dazzling illumination. As he gets closer, his face lights up with pure amazement. He stands before a massive, glowing structure, shaped like a four-pointed star atop a stone monolith. Realizing he's found his objective, Kay identifies the object as the Stella Fragment, which radiates a powerful, holy light. He notes that its unique glow and shape are different from what he's seen before, wondering if every fragment is truly unique. Deciding not to waste another second, He climbs the rocky mound to recover the item and escape this unpleasant dimension. He reaches his hand toward the glowing core. The light swirls with ferocious intensity. Suddenly, a massive surge of energy explodes from the fragment, straight into his hand. As his absorption ability automatically kicks in, Kay is utterly shocked, his body ablaze with the absorbed energy. He panics, wondering why his ability activated on its own again. He desperately hopes that since it was only for a moment, it won't cause any major issues. The oppressive dark influence that trapped the group begins to fade. Kay looks up, relieved as the oppressive atmosphere finally dissipates. The suffocating, pitch-black void vanishes, revealing a massive, ancient gray stone chamber. Kay stands alone in its vast center, gazing at the glowing energy still in his hands, confirming the terrifying black space is truly gone. He reflects on the treacherous nature of the Black Lands, noting this dangerous territory is always full of surprises. Gale and Ellie Tion slowly regain their senses, staring at Kay in utter disbelief. Kay asks, "Are you both okay?" But Gale immediately points an accusing finger at him. While Ellie asks in shock, "How are you fine?" Kay replies simply, "I don't know." He quickly shifts their attention to the glowing object in his hand, announcing, "We've found our target." They quickly identify the object, swirling with vibrant rainbow light, as the legendary Stella fragment. The team gathers around to inspect it closely. Gale is skeptical that such a tiny object is actually what Team Leader Red was talking about. Ellie is utterly amazed that something so small can hold so many brilliant colors. Beside them, Nero floats, staring intently at the glowing orb. Kay confirms there are no immediate negative effects on his body. However, Nero slowly drifts closer, his eyes completely locked onto the shiny energy. Suddenly, the cat opens its mouth wide, looming ominously over the artifact. Before anyone can react, Nero swallows the Stella fragment whole. Kay's face twists into absolute horror and pure shock. Gale and Ellie are equally terrified, screaming at the cat in a panicked frenzy, demanding, "What are you doing?" Gale shouts, pointing at the floating cat, scolding Nero, "That fragment is not food." Losing his temper, Gale snatches him up and shakes him violently. He screams at Nero, demanding he spit it out. Kay frantically tries to intervene, yelling at Gale to get his hands off the poor cat. Suddenly, loud cracks spiderweb across the walls and ceiling. Gale grumbles that after all their hard work, this is how it all ends. The entire structure begins to crumble as the three pioneers stand trapped in the center. Realizing the immense danger, Gale yells for everyone to run. Kay, clutching Nero, races alongside Ellie, Cyan, and Gale. The room collapses violently behind them as they desperately sprint toward the exit, narrowly escaping into the hallway. The scene shifts to a different, ominous location. A group of pioneers stands before a massive, dead monster. Arantia, the woman with vibrant orange hair, inspects a deep slash mark carved into the ground. She kneels to meticulously examine the traces, her expression filled with concern. A blue-haired man asks if she's found anything. Arantia confirms with a grim expression that the battle-crazed bastard has returned. She explains the traces belong to a humanoid creature, known as the Sword Demon, one of the witch's black hands. She says every time he shows up, he wreaks absolute havoc, and wonders if the recent surge in monster activity is somehow related to his sudden appearance. The blue-haired man asks if they should continue, but Arantia decides to immediately abort the mission. She states they've already secured enough resources and refuses to risk the probationers under her care. Suddenly, Arancha senses a massive energy surge. A gigantic, red fire explosion erupts from a nearby mountain. Arancha instantly recognizes the specific fire color, realizing it belongs to Team Leader Red. She stares in shock, realizing that if Red is fighting with that much power, the sword demon must be right there with him. Invisible energy slashes suddenly tear through the air, heading straight toward the pioneers. Arancha reacts instantly, screaming at her subordinates to get out of the way. As a massive cutting wave rapidly approaches, as her team scrambles, Arancha draws a massive mechanical hammer. Her face, ablaze with orange heat, hardens into a fierce glare. Her eyes blaze with surging power as she braces herself to intercept the incoming attack. With a mighty roar, she leaps, swinging her hammer high. The impact unleashes a massive, blinding orange energy explosion, which collides head-on with the incoming black slash, utterly neutralizing the threat. Landing safely, Arancha declares the expedition officially over, ordering everyone to fall back to the outpost. She then instructs her blue-haired deputy to lead the immediate retreat, while she goes to rendezvous with Team Leader Red. Arancha then launches herself straight towards the distant mountain peak. The scene shifts dramatically to the mountain, where a cataclysmic battle rages on. Red and black energies clash with explosive, raw force. A vibrant spectacle of colors. Red and the sword demon dart at blinding speeds, their blades clashing again and again. The sword demon then grabs a heavy, spear-like weapon of pure darkness. His single, glowing white eye glares intently at Red. With a terrifying roar, the demon hurls a spiraling vortex of dark energy toward the pioneer. Red stands his ground, bracing for the heavy impact. With a skillful twist, he deflects the dark spear. Undeterred, the sword demon charges again, swinging a deadly blade of shadows. Red expertly parries, focusing solely on defense against the relentless assault. Suddenly, the sword demon pauses, sensing a buildup of heat. A massive geyser of blazing red fire erupts from the ground, instantly engulfing the entire area. The sword demon leaps backward, just in the nick of time, narrowly escaping the fiery inferno. The sword demon glares through the roaring flames, his single glowing eye fixed intently on his opponent. Suddenly, a voice shouts triumphantly from above, complimenting Red on his perfectly executed lure attack. Arancha descends rapidly, wielding her massive hammer, and yells a fierce challenge to the demon, daring him to even try and dodge. With a wild grin, she playfully taunts the enemy. She swings her hammer down with incredible, immense force, unleashing a devastating shockwave of orange energy. The demon is violently crushed deep into the ground, caught off guard by the ambush. Arancha lands gracefully as the dust settles. Colorist Red looks at her with a calm, knowing smile, and casually remarks that she's late. Arancha jokes that she almost bit the dust, but Red just shrugs it off. She notes that even though she landed a clean hit, it wasn't enough to finish the fight for good. And sure enough, the sword demon's silhouette emerges from the dust. The creature glares at the two pioneers with intense hostility, completely unharmed. Red, however, remains confident, telling Arancha that facing this enemy now will be much easier with her using her full power. Arancha, however, warns him not to fight half-heartedly. She admits she's relieved she arrived, before things escalated too seriously, explaining that none of the other colorists want to see Red fight at his true, full strength, implying his true power is absolutely terrifying. Red just complains about her nagging. Ignoring him, Arantia activates her power, and glowing orange energy rings form beneath her feet. She grips her hammer tightly, surrounded by a brilliant aura of light, and declares they'll take down another of the witches. Black hands across from them. The sword demon stands silently, his face bulging with unbridled fury, while colorist, Red, and Arantia prepare to engage the sword demon. A strained voice suddenly echoes from the cliff edge. Red's eyes widen in utter surprise, and even the sword demon looks utterly confused, pausing to look toward the source of the sound. The sword demon stands on the rocky ledge, watching as arguing voices drift up from below. Finally, Gale K, with Nero and Ellie Cyan, climb over the ledge. Gale collapses, panting and declaring he never wants to go back to those underground ruins. However, Kay suddenly freezes, noticing a truly terrifying presence. He looks up to see the sword demon glaring directly at him. Behind the monster, he sees Red and Arantia glowing with vibrant energy. Realizing they've just walked right into a battle, Arantia and Red look utterly panicked. They curse the absolutely horrible timing, then rush forward to intercept the monster. Red screams at the trio to dodge. The sword demon ignores the powerful colorists, turning his attention to the weaker prey. With terrifying speed, the monster charges directly at Kay. Gale and Ellie, acting on pure instinct, Gale grips his sword, and Ellie swiftly draws her weapon. Despite their utter exhaustion, the two charge forward to protect themselves. The sword demon's swings is massive, black blade with overwhelming, brutal force. In a single, devastating strike, he shatters the weapons of both Gale and Ellie. Ellie and Gale stare in utter horror. Gale cannot process how his hardened metal weapon was so effortlessly destroyed. Paralyzed by sheer terror, he realizes the power gap is truly insurmountable and believes he's about to die. The sword demon swings his massive blade downward. A deadly slash of white energy cuts through the air. In a desperate attempt to save his teammates, Kay throws himself directly in the path of the attack, shielding Gale and Ellie. The strike cleanly chops off Kay's left hand. Kay grits his teeth, screaming in agony. Ellie screams his name in pure terror, and Gale shouts out in shock. As the sword demon looms menacingly over them, Kay falls backward, bleeding profusely. The sword demon lunges forward, delivering a brutal knee strike to Gale, and grabbing Ellie by the throat. He holds her hostage, using her as a human shield. Colorist Red and Arantia finally arrive, but freeze, utterly unable to attack without killing Ellie. The sword demon commands them to stop, ordering them to clear a path and not pursue him. He demands they hand over the key, utterly confusing the colorists. He warns that the girl is now in his hands, and threatens to kill Ellie if they don't listen. Red narrows his eyes, pondering the dire situation. Arantia shouts back in utter confusion, asking, "What key are you even talking about?" She trembles with uncontrollable fury, cursing him as a bastard. Meanwhile, Red grimly clenches his jaw, his tension palpable. He's fully aware that this situation has become desperately intricate. Elsewhere, Kay lies motionless, face down in the dirt. His severed arm gushes blood as Nero hovers anxiously above him. Then, with a sudden gasp, Nero cries out. Against all odds, Kei's remaining hand gives a faint twitch. The sword demon ruthlessly presses Ellie, their gaze unwavering. He's insistently demanding an answer, but then, a menacing, shadowy presence begins to erupt from the very ground. Kei slowly, ominously begins to stand, his silhouette towering over them. The sword demon instantly perceives an overwhelmingly intense aura. He snaps his head around, his expression utterly bewildered. He stammers incoherently, unable to comprehend the sight before him. "Were you?" he demands as Kei stands fully upright, imposing. His face remains completely obscured by deep, encroaching shadow. Vast, terrifying torrents of black energy rage and swirl around his form. The malevolent darkness coalesces intensely around his severed wrist. And then, his arm rapidly regenerates, manifesting anew. It's reformed entirely from that ominous black energy itself.